President Putin is the ruler of Russia. He's been ruling that country for 23 years. And last year, he ordered his army to invade the neighbouring country, that's Ukraine. And the war has been going on there ever since, with terrible destruction, lots of homes, schools, hospitals destroyed. Over the weekend, part of that army started its own rebellion, and they took over a whole city of 1 million people. Nobody was hurt in that. Then they announced that they were going to march on the capital, Moscow. It would be the equivalent of part of the British Army deciding they were going to rebel against the British government and marching from Lincoln down to London. Well, the march didn't get that far. It got about halfway, there was some shooting, and then suddenly it stopped.
What is a mercenary and who are the Wagner Group?
These are people who take money for being soldiers, but not in part of the real army. They're working for a private army, and they're called the Wagner Group. They've got a very bad reputation. They're very brutal, they're pretty mean people, but they are good soldiers. They're very effective soldiers. And because they have challenged President Putin, this basically gives him a bit of a problem. So he's decided to say, right, I forgive you all, but you've now got to belong to the real army, the big army. Some of them will do, some of them will go home. Some of them may possibly end up going to prison, because this army has got some quite nasty people in it. Some of them are convicts, they've committed crimes, they've been robbers, and they've been taken out of prison to go and fight in this mercenary army, the Wagner Group.
What does this mean for the war in Ukraine?
It probably helps Ukraine, because Ukraine is trying to push out the Russian invaders. And because this Wagner mercenary army is no longer there in Ukraine in a big way, it might make it easier for Ukraine to push them out. It might make it easier for them to beat the Russians there, but we don't know yet. It's still pretty early.
Why do events in Russia matter to us? Are we less safe in the UK because of what's happened?
Well, Russia's an important country. It may be a long way away. We used to get a lot of our energy from there, a lot of gas, a lot of oil. But in the last year, Britain and other countries in Europe have been able to find other places to get their oil and gas from. And Russia's pretty much isolated. Russia doesn't give us anything. So the fact that Russia is cut off now with what's called sanctions doesn't really affect us too much in the West. The one place it does worry us, though, is that Russia's got a lot of missiles, a lot of really big, powerful missiles. So we don't want to ever go to war with Russia. So we hope that the Ukraine war will eventually end without the West, that's Britain, France, Germany, America, ever having to go to war with Russia.
Well, if you want to know more about this story, then head over to the Newsround website to check out our guide.